President Trump giving the Democrats a generous offer to get funding for the border wall.
Number one is 3 years of legislative relief for 700,000 DACA recipients brought here unlawfully by their parents at a young age. Secondly, our proposal provides a 3-year extension of temporary protected status, or TPS.
That in exchange for $5.7 billion in the border wall. So far, Democrats have shown disinterest in the proposal that would benefit legal DACA recipients. Joining us now to react, Hilario Yanez is a DACA recipient himself. Hilario, thanks so much for being here this morning.
Thanks for coming.
Your initial reaction, you've seen where the debate is. You know, we're, as you can see below me, we're in the 29th day of a shutdown. The president makes a good faith proposal. Your reaction?
Well, I want to begin by thanking the president and the Republican leadership for being fearless, bold, and courageous, for embracing the DACA community. So thank you so much. I think at the end of the day, could the president have asked for a permanent solution? Absolutely. It's in his heart. But he's giving Speaker Pelosi an opportunity, and also inviting her to come back and bring a counteroffer. And I think once we hear that counteroffer, permanent solution, then I think both parties will come to agreement, and we're going to find a great deal for the American people.
You know, Nancy Pelosi immediately kind of shutting this down, saying they're not interested, stating, in fact, it is unlikely that any one of these provisions alone would pass the House. And taken together, they are a non-starter. What do you make of her just immediately shutting this down and saying, well, you know what, unless it's a permanent solution, we're not going to bite?
Well, Speaker Pelosi stood for 8 hours last year fighting for the Dreamer community, fighting for a permanent solution. And I know people just don't stand for 8 hours for no reason. So I know she's going to come back with the counteroffer and bring the permanent solution. And look, President Trump is an ultimate deal maker. At the end of the day, he wants to bring safety. He wants to bring certainty for the Dreamers. And I think we're just waiting for that counteroffer. And I feel really optimistic that Pelosi is going to bring that to the table.
Hilario, but the counteroffer would have to include something for a border wall, yet Nancy Pelosi and others have said no wall, no wall, no wall, only barely $1. So what kind of counteroffer are they being disingenuous in saying, well, we need a permanent solution for DACA, but we won't even touch the wall?
Yeah, I mean, that's where we have to give and take here, right? So if Nancy Pelosi, I think we're going to have to put politics to the side and say, you know what, Mr. President, I'll give you a wall. In exchange, you give me permanent solution for the DACA community, and we can shake hands, we can agree, and we can move on to infrastructure and other big, important policies for the rest of the year.
You know, Democrats have decided instead to take a strategy of just blaming President Trump and saying, you know, Chuck Schumer, for example, saying it was President Donald Trump who single-handedly took away DACA and TPS protections in the first place. Offering some protections back in exchange for the wall is not a compromise, but more hostage-taking. Can it also be, though, that the president is taking this out of the courts, removing this from the courts, and now instead saying, you know what? Legislators, we got to fix this. It's time to get together and fix this, and actually taking an active step toward trying to find a solution that everyone can get on board with.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, this is coming from a Dreamer and a DACA recipient. I think DACA is unconstitutional. Look, at the end of the day, I'm always going to be grateful for former President Obama for giving me the opportunity to live the American dream. But I think a lot of Americans can agree what he did was the right thing to do. It was just the wrong way to go about it. He bypassed Congress and he did it himself. But now the President Trump and Speaker Pelosi have an opportunity to not just have a 3-year fix, but a permanent solution. And I think that's what we're waiting for.
Hilario, a poll caught our eye recently, which is stunning. Since the shutdown, 30 days, President Trump's approval rating amongst Latinos has risen 19% from 31% in December to 50% approval. That is completely counter to what the left wing or the mainstream media would believe is happening. What is it about Latinos or Hispanics? What do they like about a showdown or what the president's standing for on a border wall?
Well, look, I think right now, I believe his approval ratings might go even higher because he just continues to embrace the DACA community. He wants to solve this problem. I think a lot of Hispanics and Latinos really want to see the solution fixed once and for all, and a lot of Americans do. So I think once both parties come to agreements, I mean, it's a win-win situation for both parties, and then we can get ready for 2020 afterwards.
Do you think that's a sentiment that's common? Like, do you talk to people who are in a similar position position as you, and do you hear that? Your point of view, which isn't often expressed in mainstream media by mainstream media outlets, is that a fairly common sentiment that you hear?
Well, I hear a lot of dreamers are in support and agreement with a compromise. A lot of people support safety. That should be our #1 priority. A lot of dreamers that I speak to, and I think it's a perfect opportunity.
Hilario Yanis, thank you very much for your time.
Appreciate your perspective.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.